Shawn,
Yes.
uh, take me back a little bit. I first was introduced to the show when I talked to Rhett and Paul when it was first coming out, and they told me that you'd been sitting on this idea. I mean, that sitting on is reductive, but you'd had this idea for decades.
It's not wrong. I mean, it was a really, my process is always a little strange, and it's especially fun to be doing this. So thank you, because we get to like kind of on this strange journey of the show in something my manager and Mike O'Malley, who plays Principal Cole, keep reminding me that this never happens. That this never happens when one network has a show for a year and then another network picks it up. So it's kind of neat to be able to kind of look back. And I know Mark and Ciara did a bunch of interviews and I did some stuff, but in thinking back on the process of how everything happened, and then it airing and how everything happened after that with YouTube is like an interesting thing I was thinking about before this started, that we get to talk about for the first time in a fresh way. So I I had been, it came from an idea based on seeing this kid from Brockton, Massachusetts. I know I was about 8. I'm not quite sure. I was too young to do anything about this, but I saw this kid getting beat up by they were a little older than me, a bunch of kids beating up one kid. And when they were done and tired and started walking away and swearing at the kid named Chris, picked up a rock and threw it at them and then got beat up again. And it really spoke to the kind of kids I grew up with. Brockton is, a tough town with, a bunch of murders. And when I did the pitch for Wayne, I would go out and do this funny thing where I'd look up Brockton on YouTube. And most of the time it was something like Pitbull barbecue or or like 11 murders yesterday. Like it's, there's a lot of great in that town. I don't want to disparage it. It's a great town, but it was, I think, like more towns in this country than we see on TV. And I always said to myself, we don't see enough of those type of kids in those type of neighborhoods growing up with that type. They're always pretty. I grew up watching Friends and stuff and, never saw these type of kids. So I thought a lot about that. Anyway, going back to your question, I thought a lot about that moment for years and years. I never forgot it because it says a lot about like these kids might not have no mom or no dad or no both. So you're not taking their goddamn pride. You know what I mean? They will fucking stand up and throw a rock right back at you and get beat up again rather than just, take their licking and cry. So I wrote that scene one day at work. I was working on another TV show and I kind of wrote the opening to Wayne not knowing what it was. Except in this version, he walks away the hero into the sunset like a, gunslinger, because this is really kind of a Western. And then I kind of like thought about it for a year and I thought about this story. I kind of thought of the idea of, it was like Dirty Harry in high school. And then that made me laugh. And then it slowly became kind of what the core of the show is, which is, the romance is really at the core of it. But there's all this noise around that romance. It's a very noisy show in a lot of respects. It's weirdly absurd and, violent. And, that's the people I grew up with. And I know there's a lot of different cultures that can speak of their, people this way, but Boston people are very chip on their shoulder, take no shit, yell a lot. I always say we're either punching or crying. And so, that's everybody who's in this world. This is about a bunch of broken people. And this is how those specific people from that region tend to react to everything. It's very loud. So that's where the idea came from. I wrote that scene, then slowly figured out the show for another few months, and it became kind of a ride or die, 2 kids and a bike, romance. There is innocent, 1920s innocent, but the world around them is very, violent, loud. And eventually it did take a long time because I got to the point where I said, I can't write this. No one's going to buy this. Like, it just wasn't like, and I don't mean this in a braggy way. Like, there was nothing like this on TV at the time. Like, and then like Atlanta and Search Party came out, and I kind of went, oh, wait a minute. TV is getting really fucking weird. I might be able to write this show now and try and sell it. And then, you know, I write it, then it takes another year, and then another year, and then we film it. And so, yeah, it's, you know, I mean, people give a lot of end of the world comparisons, which I refuse to watch only because I don't want it to flavor what I'd write going forward.
Sure.
I'll eventually, I'm very eager to watch it. But, you know, like that was developed, you know, sometime in the time I came up with the idea, probably around the same time. And then I saw a Deadline article about like where they're buying it from TV4 or whatever channel, whatever British thing. And that came out as, that article came out that they had bought it from Channel 4 or something when I had already sold it and we were getting ready to shoot. So like it was a weird thing where these two things that people say are similar or we're on the same path at the same time.
Yeah. And if you like one, then you'll probably have a good time with the other.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I wouldn't know.
Right. Well, you said that there's a regional aspect to this show. And, you know, both Ciara and Mark are not from that region. How much convincing did it take for you, Shawn, to sign off on non-New England leads?
Well, that's interesting. You get to hear me talk too much because I have all these stories. And I've been thinking about them for 2 years. Yeah, we looked for both Waynes and Dells for what felt like eons. We had great casting directors. There were a couple problems where, you know, people from America, that's why you're seeing all these, you know, British and Irish people show up. They do that Boston accent really well. And it's for a reason that no one ever told me until too late in life, is that, you know, we were British and Irish people in New England. You know, like they get it well because it is kind of a little bit Irish, a little bit English. And so it's a lot easier to find someone there who can do this accent than people here. And sometimes even when you go to New England, they tend to overdo it because they're thinking about it too much instead of just being themselves. There was also another problem that turned up a lot in, you know, the fact that I had written him a certain way. It was like doughy, kind of a chubby kid, kind of too big, kind of bigger than everybody else, shaved head. And so people kept pitching me, even my mother kept saying, he should be cute. And so I had to get my head around it. And I actually have the email. I said, I think they were pitching me Mark's friend. What's your friend's name? The lead? Verdia. They'd pitch me Verdia, who's great in Sing Street. And I love that movie. But my reaction was to say, hey, can we maybe find out what's going on with this kid, you know, who played his friend, who plays all the instruments, who's really weird. And, you know, Mark has the glasses and he has that really like dull kind of monotone response to everything in that movie that's really great. And it felt like it felt like a Tannenbaum's character or something. And, you know, I immediately thought, oh, this is the other version of Wayne that I didn't, you know, expect, which was, you know, kind of a weird, awkward, just because he's kind of alienated himself because of his behavior rather than, you know, a kid who's weird because he looks weird or is overweight or, you know, there's kids I grew up with who were probably good looking kids, but they were such fucking messes that they kind of like, kids are like, stay away from them, you know? I almost want, Ciara's heard this story so many times that I almost want her to tell it, but it would be weird. We could not find Dell. There was a problem where there was a lot of LA mainly actors who had a hard time acting below their class. And so we needed, I had this very specific idea of who Dale was because she was every girl I grew up with that would like have 2 beers and then she'd be wrapped around someone's neck, scratching their eyes out, like just who would throw down at any minute, and always defensive, always had a wall up because she's been hurt in the past. And it's, especially with the accent, it was hard to get. And then, I had given up and I went to bed like completely depressed, like we're not shooting the show. And then the next day, the wonderful casting people send this tape into my inbox, and it was honestly, and I watched it again the other night. I have the tape. I sent it to Ciara the other night because I found this tape of their audition together from long ago. And it was, unlike Mark's, who kind of turned me around with his talent, and she walked out of my brain, you know what I mean? It was like that character walked out of my brain, and surprisingly from the Midwest and not Boston or Jersey even or anything like that. And yeah, do you guys, Mark, Ciara, do you want to say anything about that process at all, or I'm talking so much I feel terrible.
Well, I know you had chemistry reads, and you
Right.
you auditioned together. Is it either on that day or even after? Is it luck? Is it just the way that you happen to slot in together, or do you do any kind of like bonding? You mentioned going to Earl's, but I think that was with everybody much later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Earl's being a restaurant, not a guy's place.
Yeah.
Restaurant that we went to way too many times. No, for the chemistry test, I landed in LA that morning, I think, and no, it was the night before, and then I just showed up and met here like 10 minutes before the audition, I think, and then
yeah, definitely.
We just kind of asked each other about like where we were from. Kind of like I remember asking Ciara if she had been acting a long time, and she said she was in Big Time Rush, and then I knew what Big Time Rush was, so that was a weird moment for me. And then we just went into the audition room and met all the producers, stuff like that, and did the scene. There was no kind of moment beforehand of building any sort of relationship. It was literally just a hi, how are you, and then we did the audition.
Wayne is this character who carries so much like internal baggage that he thinks that he's hiding from people, but everyone who looks at him is like, well, clearly that kid is effed up in different ways. I think it's reductive to call him escapist because of everything that he carries with him, but I don't know, is it empowering or something to play a character who can see an injustice and go, I'm gonna kick the shit out of that guy?
Yeah, it's definitely a more fun role to play anyway. It's I'd never played anyone like that before, done anything like that, so it's fun when you get to do scenes where you're beating the shit out of a bike, or I don't know if we're allowed curse, so maybe you can just beat that out.
That was fun.
Or beating a wall down with a sledgehammer, or like nailing a guy to a van with a nail gun. It didn't, certainly those days anyway, never felt like work. I would just show up and Shawn would be like, here's the thing I wanted to do as a kid, so I'm going to write it into the script and now you're going to do it. And I remember one day they harnessed me up and Shawn was just like, yeah, you're just going to drop out of this tree like Fat Man. And I was like, cool.
It's Mark is going back to the like really first day. We did the motorcycle in the street with the Big Mac truck one night, and it was like 0 degrees. That was like night 0 or something. And then on the real acting day, first day, was the moment Mark looks down the hall to see his father's feet, as his father's sick. And you knew those are the moments where someone has smarts and ability, is when they're doing it without dialogue. And me and Ian, the director of the pilot, kind of looked at each other and went, we got one, because you never know up until that point. You just really never know. And him acting with his face, like all that hurt in his face when he looks down the hall was just, everything we needed to go, okay, we made the right choice. So yeah, he's Mark is one of those kids who kind of he's just like a Sing Street character in the way that maybe he'll start skateboarding and then like 3 days later he's doing like massive tricks and you're like, he just picks up everything really fast. On set he was like doing camera shit, like the crew's letting him operate camera A, and he unlike a lot of actors, he'll come up to you and know exactly what you're asking before he asks the question. And he has this, for a person who'd done very little, he had the incredible smarts, and was both of them insanely. We're lucky to, like, I don't know if Ciara had some influence on this too because she's been doing this forever, but there's a discipline to both of them that is like really impressive. Like even I couldn't hold it. Like taking phones to the set, doing their line readings, like all that stuff. Like I've been doing this for 16 years or something, and I had not seen a discipline, especially in young actors, like that. So that combination, both of them being, insanely talented and disciplined, was you get to see a good show. Usually when they are leads, it helps.
And Ciara, kind of taking that same coin, that same approach. Your character is someone who, as Shawn kind of alluded to before, when you walk down the street or see her or try to say hi, the wall comes up and you just kind of go, all right, moving on. And, I don't know, is that in its own way kind of empowering to be like, I don't give a shit what you think about me, because I'm over here, I'm in a whole other plane of existence.
Yeah, of course it is. That was like absolutely one of my favorite parts about playing Dell, is that she has absolutely nothing to lose, and for that reason she is fearless with life. She does what she wants to do when she wants to do it. She says what she wants to say when she wants to say it. As guarded as she is, at the same time, I do feel like Dell is a bit of an open book. Like you can see the hurt inside of her. Like if she's angry, Dell is angry. There's no second guessing those emotions. And playing a character like that, it was so empowering. I'm sure every young woman has the same experience where, sometimes it can be very scary to just tell someone where to stick it. But Dell was never afraid of the consequences that those words usually have. And I hope to one day be able to live life the way that Dell lives it. I hate to say, like, respect myself the way that Dell, I absolutely do. I think there's certainly a far better way to go about those things, far more conducive for professional situations, of course. But, there's no fear in the way that she lives life. And one can only dream to live like that.
Yeah. Such a huge thing about this show for me, having seen it, I don't know, I think 5 or 6 times by now, start to finish, is with different people and different combinations. It's so adherent to setups and payoffs. There's so much within the same episode and within different episodes. Dell says that she wants to become mayor, and then 4 episodes later you learn all about her running for class president, and it just it clicks. And if you don't get it the first time, the setup becomes the payoff when you watch it the second time. You're like, of course. With that in mind, it seems like such a very tightly scripted show. What room do you get to interpret your characters? And that is a very long-winded way of me going, do you get to ad-lib on set? It's a way of going around that.
Mark and I aren't really big ad-libbers, I don't feel. I'm not. I don't know.
Yeah, no, we just
kind of speaking for you, but
I think we maybe throw an idea in every now and again, but if we ever had, like, I don't think personally anyway, I'm not brave enough or like confident enough in my ideas to just be like, yeah, this next take, I'll do this. I'd have to
Especially
like
when you're
on and be like, Shawn, is this a good idea? Does that make sense to you?
that's what I was going to say, because you've got words written by Shawn Simmons and all of our incredible writers. Like when you have dialogue that good, you don't need to ad-lib.
It's also so unique that it's hard for me to personally come up with something and be like, that's something Shawn would write. I'm on the right track here.
We had a benefit though of, you know, we started the whole thing together making the pilot, so it was always, you know, me and these two, and we turned into a weird, like, you know, Uncle Shawn go out to eat every weekend on Sunday night and Saturday, and we continue to do that. So we had the benefit of kind of like talking about ideas sometimes at a table, and Mark would say, hey, it'd be really cool if this or that. And, you know, that's the way they're disciplined, you know, so, you know, a lot of times, sometimes those ideas would come, you know, hanging out later. Then there were people like, you know, Dean Winters, who plays Daddy, who would, you know, email me ideas. And I wanted, you know, Mike O'Malley would ad lib a lot. I tend to encourage it. I know there's a lot of showrunners who get really angry about it.
This is my vision.
Yeah, I honestly, like, I had more people give me lines like Michaela Watkins. How are you not going to take her stuff? Like, I had Mike O'Malley, who was so quick, it's insane. I wanted to get, as long as they did my line so I had it the right way a couple times, I was very into people giving me shit, because I want, not only was it good half the time, more than half the time, and I'd use it in the editing room, I also, when you see people invested in that way, and they fell more in love with being at work, and they felt a part of it. They felt a part, like their fingers in it in a different way and shaping it. I mean, Dean Winters came up with the whole, I don't want to get, it's weird because we're going on Amazon now, so I have to remember not to ruin things for these millions of other people who haven't seen the show. Because they just, you know, you realize people were just like, it's on YouTube, and you'd see their head turning going like, I'm not going to try to figure that out.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to figure out how to do YouTube. So like Dean gave me a very big idea at the end of the Dell episode, which, you know, I took like that because it was good. And they're all the more invested in the process for it and liked coming to work. You know, so I'm not that guy. I'm not that guy who's going to get
I remember the only idea I think I like forced upon Shawn was when he told me for the last fight in the show, he told me he was using True Shred guitar, and I looked the song up and I instantly texted him. I was like, this song makes me want to drop kick somebody through a door. And then every day I would be like, I have to drop kick him through the door in the fight. And then we ended up putting it in, which was a very, very fun thing to do.
I had that song picked out before we even started writing the season. Like, that's one of those weird things I was thinking about the other day. That's like, you know, I'm still, right now we're just going on Amazon. We don't know if we're getting picked up, but like, I'm all of a sudden doing that thing where I'm like, oh, this song is going to be in that season, you know, and that song was there forever. That song was there for like a year.
Well, yeah, it kind of leads to, you know, you said that this is a very peculiar case. It was on a network for 1 year. Now it's on, you know, picked up. Usually if something that happens, it's like a long runner that for whatever reason gets picked up by something else. But, you know, Wayne was not canceled. YouTube Premium was canceled. They canceled everything. This is not.
That feels better. I'm going to go with that. That feels a lot better.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
A little bit.
When you say it like that.
Yeah, maybe it's just a cold comfort, but it is a, what is it, extenuating circumstances, whatever. So kind of with that, you know, this is like, you know, fitting for a Western. This is Wild West. This is uncharted territory. I don't know if something like this with, you know, a 1 season, 10 episode show getting a chance at Second Life and getting, you know, a marketing push, a real, you know, effort. What is kind of your I know that the ambition is, and it's not so pie in the sky, at least from where I'm sitting, is season 2.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what are your kind of hopes for this second wave of Wayne 2.0?
I've been planning the season. I mean, ever since, I don't know, I came back and edited in October of 2019, and I was already, had been planning in the last episodes another season. YouTube really encouraged us to do that cliffhanger. Son of a bitch. But they were like, really, like, I took it out at one point and then put it back in because they wanted it. Of course, I don't think the network executives who were Wayne's only Wayne because that network really let us make that show, which, I've worked at this long enough to know that the network can be really intrusive and make a show not what you planned in the beginning. And they did not do that. We used to get like 3 notes on a script, and it was always 3 notes and a compliment, which I felt like they had a little notepad they got at a flea market that had 3 lines and then one that said compliment at the bottom, and they just filled it out every week because it was really that every week. So they loved the show and they were super supportive. And, the best compliment I always get is that it's weird and I've never seen anything quite like it. I watched the beginning and kind of went like, what the hell am I watching? And that was important to me because I, didn't want to make something that everybody had seen. What was the question? I lost it. Wait a minute. I lost my track.
Well,
but, season 2. Yeah. So we, I had been planning it already. I already wrote the first episode back a long time ago. YouTube had me write that. And I've already written an outline for another Dell episode. I have an outline for a villain episode that if we can get an extra episode, I'd like to be able to do. I've written the last scene of the season. I know what Daddy's arc every scene is the whole time. I know what Orlando's story is. I know what Wayne's, drive is, and O'Malley's 2 little intertwining stories are. I mean, I'm really excited about it. I know, 15, 20 songs that are in it already. Like, I know, let's just say I know what it is. It's going to be very easy for the writer's room again because I've had a long time to think about it. But, I'm hoping, I want to be back in Toronto shooting this with these dudes. And I have you don't usually have this much confidence knowing what made something tick like this. I mean, I know what made the show tick now. I know what the certain things people liked about it, a couple little things that people, might have said were unnecessary or something. And I know what my actors can do. And everyone, I still talk to Dean Winters, like, every 3 weeks he texts me, and Mike O'Malley calls me every couple of weeks. And we're also in that great position of everybody's dying to go back to work and do this. You don't always get that. So yeah, that's my hope. We do well on Amazon, and, we're having someone pay for cocktails and, meals at a what'd you say, Ciara? At a restaurant in Toronto. And not sitting home slowly, I haven't had shoes on in like 4 days. I'm so pale. It's terrible. I'm scaling, like, I have dandruff. It's terrible. I feel like we're going to come out of the house like, those movies where, like, The Room where the mom and the son are kept hostage in a basement. I feel like we're all going to come out, except we're overfed instead of underfed. Yeah, we're just a little fatter, but we're pale.
Yeah, that every movie that started shooting before quarantine gets finished afterwards. You're just going to be able to tell because everyone's just going to be a little chunkier in some scenes, and every shot, reverse shot is like, oh, that was reshoots.
Yeah. Some people exercise, take the time to exercise, but
I don't understand.
I'm too depressed.
Well, I'm going to let you go in just a minute.
No, loving it.
Here's something. Are there any, like, I don't know. Did you get to do like a George Lucas thing and go in and like put CGI dewbacks in the Amazon version of the show, or are they 100% the same episodes?
100% different actress for Dell. But,
Yeah.
so
I was recast, but other than that, everything should be the same.
Okay. Christopher Plummer.
yes,
Yeah.
It's me.
yeah,
That's the whole surprise.
We give him bangs.
yes. Paul Giamatti.
It's the Jack and Jill
Plays
of
Wayne.
TV.
All right. Well, this has been such a treat for me. Maybe you have no idea. Maybe you do. Maybe you can tell by how giddy I am. But this has been something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. And I really hope that we can, move the needle at least a little bit towards season 2. November 6th. I don't know if you any final thoughts on where you would like to take your characters in the future. I guess we can put a little bit of a spoiler warning right here. We'll have it flash across the screen. Any you probably know Shawn's script and his ideas for season 2, but do you have any ideas of your own that you would like to see your characters do in the near future?
I want to see Wayne freed. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean,
But I know it's not my character, but
I know Shawn's ideas up until the very end of the whole show, so I don't know, maybe just watching Wayne grow emotionally as a person and learn to process and feel something that isn't anger.
Mark's wrote the script. Mark's
same
read.
for Della. They could both use that. A good therapist. I would love to see
Wayne
Della in therapy.
season 2 is just Wayne in therapy.
It's in treatment with Wayne, the HBO show.
And then they give up and just lobotomize him or something. It takes a turn.
That the audience hates that show.
Oh my God.
They lobotomized Wayne, that character we loved. They lobotomized him. That seemed like a strong choice. Dell's just sitting by the bed. These guys have both read the script back and heard me, do the same thing I did to him before we did the season, which is talk about every story point that I want to hit. Mm-hmm. So it might flavor they're gonna have a hard time answering because they kind of know a lot of the stuff.
I'm like, Shawn has this great idea that I really want to see come to life to spoil the entire second season.